I'm not here very long this year. I think I only have time to watch a movie with you.
One movie, eh? You need to find something that's, sort of fast-paced, light, fun, entertaining.
Maybe even a little stupid?
I know.
Street Fighter 2, the animated movie!
Let's watch this.
AnimeIndecision.
I've watched this thing so many times.
I think there was like a movie channel on satellite when we were growing up that used to play it a lot. And this was the kind of movie where I didn't care if it was the last 10 minutes or the first 10 minutes. If I saw it on, I would always click on it.
Yeah, I mean, we played Street Fighter games a whole bunch when we were young, but it's also just a really good portrayal of the franchise.
I mean, it's not going to win an Oscar or something, but but it's really entertaining.
It's just a great action movie. You can enjoy it as a great action movie. Looks good, feels good.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but it's also good on a B-movie level, like a fun, just laugh at them, even though sometimes you're laughing with them.
I'm not sure you could actually survive this movie if you weren't laughing at it.
No.
What about the plot? Is there a plot?
You could string together something and call it a plot, but really, it's just there to connect together the scenes so that they can get in the things that you actually want out of a Street Fighter movie, which is to see all the characters you're familiar with, hopefully acting like the characters you're familiar with, and preferably see everyone get at least one fight in.
I will say, they really did try to stick hard to the idea of street fights. A lot of fighting game movies end up giving up and putting in a tournament because it's the only way they can think of to put in all these fights. Here you actually do get random street fights.
Yeah, some of them are actual street fights for money. They took it seriously, and it works just fine, because again, the plot obviously isn't very important.
And a lot of the fights are just an excuse to give a minute of screen time to someone. If you're unlucky, your favorite character might get like 2 seconds of screen time.
Some of the characters do get the shaft. This is from sort of the Super Street Fighter 2 era, so they have the new challengers, back when those guys were new challengers, and they're all in the movie. They all get at least one fight, but some of them and some of the more main characters like Blanka and Zangief do not get much else.
Some characters like DJ don't even get to fight another Street Fighter.
Yeah, no one's gonna miss DJ.
I would have been fine if they cut him. If DJ wasn't in this movie, I would actually forget that he exists.
Probably, yeah.
Same for T-Hawk, since you had to tell me his name earlier.
Yep.
It's not like they had a lot to work with the characters anyway. A lot of the characters in this game were just stereotypes. Like, she's the Chinese girl. He's the Indian guy. He's the Jamaican guy. He's the sumo. Like, that was all they were.
Yeah. Like many fighting games, even much, much more recent fighting games, there isn't a lot of story in the game. And there might be lots of backstory written, but nobody cares because that's not how you experience the game. You experience the game through the characters and the feeling that they give you and the moves that they use. And I think all that stuff is portrayed very well in this movie.
Yeah, I would say everybody, for the most part, feels like themselves. Like, Guile feels like this tough American military dude. Dhalsim feels like this creepy, weird witch doctor dude, and that's all they're really asked to do.
Yeah, the animation is spot on, as long as you aren't a big fan of human anatomy.
Hey, they're trying to stick to the game. What do you want?
You gotta forgive the occasional 8 or 18-pack abs.
On androids.
The fights are excellent. They're well choreographed.
Good animation.
There's great animation in the fights, especially for the era, and some of them are pretty dramatic, too.
And if you know the characters, you'll know exactly what they're doing. You want to see a dragon punch, you're going to see a dragon punch. You want to see spinning bird kick, you're going to see spinning bird kick. And if you don't know the name, they're going to tell you.
Some of the moves that may be more difficult for them to portray might be in there a little bit less. But if you look really carefully, Bison does head stomp him in the head. It's about 4 frames long. It's a very fast move. But that makes it seem dangerous, and also you don't get to look at how it actually looks in the video game. And therefore, they don't break the flow with that particular silly image.
And some of the fights are just stupid street fights, but some of them have real feeling and even some, like, emotional connection to them.
Yeah, and that is definitely helped by the soundtrack. We watched the English version, the English dub, which has pluses and minuses in the voice department.
But I would say that the music in the English version of this particular release kicks the ass of the Japanese. I tried watching the Japanese, and I actually had difficulty because I was missing the music from the English dub. The Japanese kind of background sound music is very, very toned down. Sometimes there's no audio at all in scenes. Like something like a long scene sweeping over mountains, in the Japanese will have literally no audio.
The English version has great mood music, and then again you get some of the more active pieces in some of the street fights, and seriously, there's one fight to KFMDM's Ultra where if I didn't know that that was an existing famous song, I would have thought they made it for the movie because it fits the fight so perfectly beat for beat.
We don't usually sit around talking about the music in a piece, but whoever decided to, like, take a bunch of 90s alternative grunge rock metal and put it in here was a genius. You've got Alice in Chains, you've got Korn, you've got Silverchair, and, like you mentioned, KMFDM. And I don't mean, like, random B-track songs. These are songs I knew before I watched the movie.
There'll be a couple places where a piece of music might seem jarring or out of place. I don't think it breaks anything from the movie. I think it fits just fine under the circumstances.
I think the English audio has a lot more energy than the Japanese.
Definitely.
The Japanese audio is very, like, I would say generic. You could listen to that soundtrack and not know what genre of movie you're watching. Here you know you're watching something amped up.
Amped up almost as much as their steroid-infused bodies.
Seriously, the cyborgs have 8 packs.
So, when we're talking about plot, just to give the roughest gist, M. Bison, and again, we're using the English names, he's Vega in Japan, they switch it all around, I'm sure you can look up the story. Bison is running this major criminal organization, Shadow Law. They're terrorists and criminals, they're running drugs behind the scenes, taking over countries in theory, stuff like that. That's all very fuzzy in terms of what actually happens in the movie.
Yeah, in the movie we have no idea what they're actually doing.
The fact is, Bison doesn't even really care. He has this organization to do his will, and he mostly lets it go in that department because he's focused on gathering the most powerful fighters in the world. For reasons that are slightly unclear, I mean, it seems like he just wants some kind of challenge ever. But he does also want to recruit them as powerful operatives using his psycho power.
Cammy is a very popular character, and she doesn't get a lot to do in this movie. But what she does do happens while she's being mind-controlled by Bison, and it's the first time we see someone being mind-controlled in this movie, and it sets up later events.
Which at least is actually part of her backstory, so it's hard to complain about that. But you can complain about the amount of screen time she gets in the movie.
I don't remember. I don't remember.
As he tries to recruit the most powerful fighters around the world, at least to locate them, Bison's organization has sent out loads of these monitor cyborgs. Now, first off, whoever watched this saw Terminator once and didn't understand where the word cyborg comes from.
Yeah, you are accurate.
Because they have vaguely humanoid features, but they blatantly look like there's a Terminator very thinly under the skin.
Don't they all have, like, exposed metal thing over, like, one eye?
They all have a blatant, like, robot optical piece that they use to scan fighters in battle to determine how strong they are and put a number to that power. Several numbers, in fact.
Literally, one of my favorite things about this movie as a B-movie is, like, the world's lamest Where's Waldo trying to spot the incredibly conspicuous android.
They're much more sophisticated than our old surveillance models.
There's one, he's standing on the top of a rooftop in the pouring rain, dressed as, like, a fireman in, like, a neon orange raincoat and rain.
The movie does not focus on this aspect at all, but it does imply in places that these things are sneaking around, passing undiscovered in society.
And then every once in a while, they show us the cyborg's point of view, and there's this giant script of it, like, calculating everything about the person, like their lung capacity, or my favorite one, leadership.
Yeah, gotta scan that leadership.
Yeah.
Now, note that they don't actually fight these cyborgs. A couple of times they kick one.
And it breaks.
They're not designed for that. They really are this bizarre plot fragment that exists for no apparent reason, much as the discussions of what Shadow Law is actually doing in the background. Bison is supposed to be going for a meeting with the president or something. None of it matters.
I think the cyborgs are their attempt to connect all the disparate fights. Because, like, every street fight, even if, like, Ken or Ryu aren't there, has a cyborg.
Yeah. But still, ultimately, as you would expect, the entire thing is just an excuse to get together all the characters you know and have them fight. But it does really feel like the characters in a number of ways. The dialogue, which is clunky as hell, also fits really well.
It's kind of funny. Like, usually when people talk about watching the English version or the Japanese version, bad English dubs is part of the problem. Honestly, I find the bad English dub to be part of the charm of this movie. The dialogue's not that much better in the Japanese, so having it delivered in a really awkward way just makes it funny.
Some of the voices are terrible, but they're putting feeling into it, and because the whole thing is so inherently on the border where it kind of has to be funny even when they're trying to be serious, it just works. But of course, you can't talk about the dialogue in this movie without talking about Bison. M. Bison in this movie is incredibly overpowered. If you know about the video games, this is not like the old, original, skinny-ass, dictator-looking Bison. This is like the alpha version, where he has gigantic muscles. You don't know how he moves. It doesn't matter, because he has all the powers. This version of Bison should be fighting the X-Men.
He moves using his psycho power.
He can telekinetically levitate. He has the ability to mind control people, not fast, and using the aid of machines. But he can mind control people.
At one point, Ken shoots the Shoryuken at him, and he bounces it back.
Just deflects it, like it was nothing. Didn't even move. He's constantly just prattling on about how powerful he is or how irrelevant the other people are. It's like for his own amusement, to maintain some kind of interest in life when he's already conquered the criminal world and is more powerful than any fighter you could ever imagine. He just entertains himself by talking to himself, and you get to enjoy his incredibly cheesy dialogue.
His lines sound like they actually belong in some kind of parody film, except the actor giving them is delivering them. He's really committed to what he's saying, even though it's kind of goofy.
What's wrong, Guile? Thinking about your friend I killed? Try harder.
I love powerful boss characters, and he just fits it to a T, and he lives and breathes and loves it. And he's having so much fun, you can't help but have fun, as he beats the crap out of anyone who's so foolish as to challenge him. So this movie has moments of genuine humor. I mean, some of the way that things are animated, and there's the occasional, like, joking line that actually works. They have some lines that are obviously supposed to be funny that aren't really, and some pretty unfunny stuff with the relationship between Guile and Chun-Li.
Yeah. There's one scene that I think is supposed to be funny, but the only thing that actually makes me laugh about it is that Chun-Li's voice actress is so bad that she sounds like she's a chicken.
She is not great at that, but mostly it works out to our benefit unintentionally. And the thing is, while there is intentional humor, the English dub especially has some really great, just terrible what were they thinking moments. Like at the Interpol headquarters.
This scene literally takes place in about a minute and a half. It starts with a guy saying, other than warehouses and arms factories, we have found nothing resembling their main bases. 30 seconds later, they're saying, we know most of their main stuff is in the, like, India-Laos area, but we've never found their main base. 45 seconds after that, a different guy answers Guile's question about what they're planning by saying, we already have troops on way to their main base.
So, this main base that they didn't know where any of them were 2 minutes ago, they're currently launching aircraft on the way to take out the main base.
My favorite scene in the movie.
So the movie winds together to an epic climax. There's all kinds of fighting. Is it over anything? Not really. There's some feelings in individual parts, but mostly it just comes to an awesome fighting conclusion. Multiple battles going on at once between characters, most of whom are grudge enemies, except for, like, Balrog and Honda, who just fight it out for no apparent reason, just because they're both big.
But Balrog apparently just gets off of fighting really big guys. Like, you saw that Zangief fight earlier, and it popped open his buttons. He was so excited.
Yeah, he just needed to get some action.
It's not that kind of movie. I like those kinds of movies. This is not that kind of movie.
Ultimately, if you're just looking for a really fun watch, whether you want an action movie that gives you what you want from the characters from the Street Fighter franchise,
or if you want something really funny and lighthearted that you don't have to think about,
including terrible B-movie dialogue, Street Fighter II, the animated movie, just really fits the bill.
It's one of the more competent fighting game adaptations out there, which is really sad to say, but really true.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a great one, and I wish that the people who make those live-action piece of shit video game movies would learn a little something from this. You can't make the characters look the same that easily, but learn from the way this thing gets at the heart of the characters. The people who made it obviously played the game for a few hours and figured it out.
I'm also totally okay with more action movies having 90s grunge music as a soundtrack.
Yeah, that would work.
Sounds like a good way to spend the afternoon. Let's do it!
Let's do it.
AnimeIndecision.
Only one movie?
Yeah.
You know, there's a good one we could watch, but we're not holding the cassette, so we can't.
Yeah, I noticed that too.